is about one thing, but it's going to be in two little pieces, and one piece will be quick. We're going to talk a little bit about discipline, and we're going to talk about the Spirit. So let's just invite the Father in prayer. Our Father, we bless you for your love and grace and mercy. We bless you, our Father, that you've given us an opportunity to remember you, knowing, our Father, that you're always remembering us. We pray, Father, that you would take these simple words and slides and even your own word from the book, and produce a peaceable fruit in your people, that your Ruach will move in our midst, that we get an understanding that either confirms and ties together something you've already given us, or that opens our understanding a little bit more towards these things of the kingdom. There's so much confusion and stuff going on about that it's really hard sometimes for us to get that bead on what you're drawing us on, and we just ask you to give it to us. We ask you for your wisdom. We ask you that you would bless us, and remember that we're children, even that we're dust, and without you we're nothing. We just want to be in that place in our hearts and say Torah to you, because we know that you hear and that you will answer. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right, so anybody read that?
Blessed be the name.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so my wife, my Isha, my bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh told me to remind the people the feast is coming. So Pesach and Hamatzah, or Passover, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is coming. So I don't know where that's at on y'all's radar, but I want to put it on your radar. It's coming, and it's time to start preparing. I don't think we've talked about, I know we haven't talked about how people decide when it's Passover, and probably if you've been in this walk for a minute, we've seen people who have gotten one method or another of deciding, it's time for their Passover. But my estimate is the 7th and 8th of April, and that estimate could get shored up a little bit depending on the moon itself, but that's my estimate. So start thinking about your days off if you need to take days off. Hallelujah. So I said I was going to talk about discipline and personal testimony that I think speaks to the body. So I just want to reveal something that it's really me, and it's really my challenge. But I bet you that everybody in the sound of my voice has got their own version of it. And so when you say the word discipline, here we go, the talk part. What does that mean to anybody? Somebody throw something out, because I can't go on until somebody say something. Discipline, what does that mean? Militant, okay. Got militant. Self-control. Got that, right? Anybody else? Knowledgeable. Okay. So I said if I got 3, I would go on. So I got 3. Okay. So all of those are reasonable connotations. In Hebrew, the word for discipline is Talmud, and the Messiah's taught ones, his disciples, in Hebrew are called Talmudim, and it means that they were taught. And so that's the simplest version of the word. And so while my sister said, self-control or so that self-control it's got to be based on something that you know or that you were taught. And so when you think of the sports arena, the guy who's doing the high jump, the ones who's swimming or whatever, somebody's telling them, that if you want to get that breaststroke right, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? And they are bringing themselves into alignment with this teaching, just like the taught ones in Mashiach are being walking with him every day. I mean, they're hearing him belch, and everything that he's doing, they're seeing it all, right? And so they're constantly reforming their minds to what it is that he does. And in a real sense, that's our job. That's why Shaul said, renew your mind with the word. because he's saying this word is a testimony of what's true and what's right. And you need to map your behavior, your thoughts into what's right. And the challenge is that, man, this is my testimony part. There is so much going on in my life, around my life. Things that maybe I'm overweighing their importance, if you can hear me. I'm thinking a week in the woods would be good to just shut some of this stuff down, right? Because it's like so much stuff going on. Everybody thinks that their thing is high priority in my life. So it's like, really? So you're important. My people at work are important. The people calling for ministry are important. My Yahusha is important. My daughter is important. I ain't got to reading the word for myself yet. Important. I mean, all this stuff is some important, but if it's all the same important, then what in the world am I going to do? And I end up half doing what I already know is right. In other words, I can't see it through because I keep getting interrupted. I know, that I should wash the dishes out after I ate and whatever, but I got a meeting that I'm already 3 minutes late for. And I know that, I should take some time and lay before the Father and pray, but man, right now, I had a rough day and I just need to get into bed. And I know that I should try to get up a little earlier so that I could do what I didn't do last night. But man, I ain't getting to bed till 1. And now it's, and so all of this stuff that's going on, it's like I'm in a whirlwind. Anybody feel me? Children might not know this.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm in this whirlwind. And the truth of the matter is that it's not because I don't, like we're talking about the different kinds of know earlier. Mm-hmm. It's not because I don't know in one sense, but what's manifesting makes me have to question whether I really know. So let me give you the example. If there was a lawnmower out in front of the yard, and it was on its side, and it was running, and the blade was just flying around like that, I know not to stick my hand in there, don't I? Mm-hmm. There's a real low percentage of chance that I'm going to go ahead and stick my hand in it to see what's going to happen, or the garbage disposal.
Right.
It's not going to happen, right? In fact, if I ever stick my hand in garbage disposal, I turn the switch off and I sometimes unplug it too, because it's like, you know what, that thing ain't going to kick on accidentally. See, that's knowledge, right? That's the kind of knowledge that forms your behavior. But what I find myself sometimes doing is I know I should be doing this. I know I should be focusing on that. But I let stuff distract me because it's saying it's important. Why I do that? It's like so Maisha sometimes and Eliana come in the office and I'm working on something. Maybe I'm in a trade and I'm trying to focus on something. And it used to be more so than it is now, but even sometimes now, that I would try to pay attention to them so that I didn't seem rude. Tell them, this is real rude. Step off right now. I see you in a minute, because I gotta see this through. And I think that wanting to be nice thing can get us in a lot of trouble.
I agree.
I think that if we can't prioritize what's important, then we're not going to get the fruit of it to be in that place where we can be nice and happy with whatever, drink water on the beach or whatever. You see my point. I think that we have to toughen up, and that's where the militant part comes in at, right? Because militant is rough. It's like, woo, right? And the only reason that, I don't like that word, the only reason I don't, is because I don't want anybody saying Ephraim promoted people being mean to each other, and being evil toward each other, and being careless. In other words, I don't care about you. But at the end of the day, you know, if you can hear what I'm about to say, you're getting paid for a job, and if you don't do it, don't expect to get paid. Right? And so if you're gonna get paid, and that pay is what's feeding you and your family, just take this out to the next level. And you being nice, neglecting your duties so that you cannot get paid, and then you don't have food. So it just tears down, and that's where I was finding my mind, where it seems like my priorities were being lost. And maybe it was Ruach, maybe it was me just thinking about it, but I was like, Frank, you need to check your discipline level out here. You need to make sure that you're doing what you know. You need to make sure you're not being a hearer and teacher of the word, but you're not doing it. Because the truth of the matter is that that's hypocrisy. And that hypocrisy is going to get you a reward that you don't want any part of. And so I felt led this morning or this afternoon to talk about at least that much about discipline, because we gotta get our priorities straight. And we gotta at least aim toward getting them straight to ever hope to actually get them straight. Because it's not necessarily a flip of the finger, right? No more than a guy who, you know, wants to run the 100-meter in however many seconds. You have to work at it. But we have to make this discipline a priority and say to all of those outside factors, hey, you know, I'm gonna take care of your stuff. I got it, but I have to get to it in a minute. To our children, hey, I love you, but right now I'm doing this. To our spouses, you know, I'd like to do this with you, but we'll have to do it a little bit later because I need to make sure I take care of that. And even to ourselves, because that's the other thing for me at least, that, you know, I spend my time doing stuff for everybody, but I don't spend any time doing stuff for me. Last week I was supposed to work on my taxes, right? And my wife came upstairs and I was watching, I don't have many, I was watching one of my favorite TV shows. And I was doing it because I just felt like, man, I need a popsicle today. You know, I need to sit back and just enjoy something for me, because, you know, I'm tapped out and that thing just gonna have to wait. And so make the call. And may the Father help us to make the calls so that we can walk in the kind of discipline that keeps us healthy and whole all around, and not just buzzing through life. And I think if anybody's buzzing through life, it should be the people who don't know Mashiach. But yet here it is. We know him, and that shalom sometimes is escaping us or trying to bleed out of our balloons. So heads up, discipline. Hallelujah. All right. So today's message is about the spirit realm. I told you, guys, we talked about it a little bit, right? Right. So I'm going to just read what the slide says. I'm noticing an alarming trend. There seems to be no regard for the things that are not seen. I guess I could have put there seems to be no regard for the things of the spirit. If it is as if we are called to walk after the flesh, from the color of the skin to discounting of miracles, signs, and wonders. I'm seeing this among people who say they believe and who say they're Israel, who say they, you know, are called and say they're Mashiach, and I'm seeing what looks more like clubs than actually walking by faith. I'm seeing these groups come together, and the success of the group being measured in numbers of people who are not honoring the Spirit. And so what do I mean by that? Do I mean everybody should be, you ain't, what the apostolic say? They say, you ain't saved unless you filled the Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues, right? Yeah. So I'm not beating that drum. I got nothing wrong with you being filled with the Spirit and speaking in tongues either, but I'm not beating that drum. The drum I'm beating is more about, all right, let's see an example. So I'm talking to a brother who says he's in Messiah, and he tells me, well, you know that Miriam lay with Joseph before they got married. That's where that baby came from. Mm-hmm. I'm like, really? So you're saying the scripture was absolutely wrong, and that after Joseph did that, he was going to put her away quietly because he was a righteous man. I said, that doesn't seem to fit. And he says, yeah, well, we know how babies are made. And what he don't know is that 20 years ago, I was witnessing to a so-called Jewish fella who used that same phrase. And you'd be surprised how you can tell who's influencing people by the phrases and the words you use. I'm talking to somebody and I can tell, oh, he grew up in GLCC. Oh, I can tell. I can tell. Because their language tells on them, and the way that they use it too, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, well, so you're saying that the scripture is lying and your revelation is correct. And yet, if you take that out, you dismantle so many things. But you didn't think that far. You just listened to the party line. And so there are no real party lines here except to learn to trust Yahuwah and love him with your whole heart and let him teach you and lead you and guide you, because it's okay with me if we don't see everything just right, but there's some things we gotta see right. Or else you like people I see in the street. So anyway, let's go on. So the logical end of this trend is to discount the scriptures. The Messiah, discount the Messiah presented there, and finally Elohim himself is a slippery slope that must be addressed so that the true, especially a new believer, are not confused regarding what to believe. Because if you grow up in God little ones now, and they ended up in some of these places, hearing some of these doctrines, they would think that all they need to do is to just live out their days because everybody in Israel is saved. Not true, just for the record. And as a matter of fact, the passage in one of the prophets makes it clear that 2/3 of Israel is going to be just wiped out. All right. So it's not like any banner flying in the air from Yehuda or from Ephraim or from Gad, Asher. None of those banners are going to save us. The only banner that's going to save you is the blood-soaked one from Messiah Yahusha. That's the only one. And so it's a matter of priorities. And so the first thing, and God says to me last week, he asked me, was I Jewish? And I says, I see how you might think that. Mm-hmm. Right? I says, maybe in some ways that's appropriate, but let me tell you what. And another guy says to me, we Hebrews. I almost want to stand up when I say that. We Hebrews, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm down with that too. But here's the real deal. Here's how I really do it. In Revelation chapter 14, verse 12, it says, let's go ahead and just read it out loud. So it can be on record, so nobody's sending no emails. Right. Let's see what it says. Revelation 14, I think it's verse number 12. It says, here is the endurance of the set apart ones, those that are guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yahusha. So I love that passage, and the reason I love it is because it puts no, y'all know what doping means? Doping. Okay, so when you make a metal, you take iron and you take something, right? They put other stuff in there it's like leaven for baking. Let's just look at it like that. This is a pure passage in the sense that it's got nothing in it that matters. That doesn't matter, rather. It's like your belief in Messiah and you're following the commandments. Can't nobody hijack that. I'm not going to get into a debate about who is in Messiah and who's keeping the commandments. But you get into who's Israel, it's like, well, I'm 97% sure, but I don't know about that other 3%. I'm not going to get into any of those debates with this passage. Because whether I'm asleep or awake, I know that I believe in Mashiach. Whether I'm asleep or awake, I know that I'm doing the best I can to understand and follow the commandments of Elohim. And these are the set apart ones. I think King James says the saints. Is that correct? Did I have you?
No, I don't have it.
Okay, no problem. So why did I go there? Because when I listen to some of the stories that people are telling, they don't realize they're dismantling our faith. Over time, first a lot of times it's like, well, Shaul, he's a liar because they don't understand Galatians. They don't understand Romans. They're like, nah, he I don't know why they put him in there. The Gentiles put him in there, right? Because and the truth is that Kepha makes it plain that sometimes the things that the Shaul says are hard to understand. And so you don't understand it, let's throw them out the book. The next thing is like, well, some brother told me in the Torah that it said that if I do this, that the Father would forgive me. So now it's like, oh, really don't need Mashiach. Now he's a prophet. Now he brought the word and he was, so they got Paul out, they got Mashiach out, and now, they're Torah only. Torah only, Hebrews, all that other stuff, they added because of this, that, and the other. My point is that you just walked away from life. And you did it sort of unknowingly. You thought you were learning and you were being dismantled. It's like a car chop shop. They were taking your pieces off you little by little. So if you would confess it, this is where they're going, most will not even know it's happening until it's too late. And we must not, capitalize, find ourselves in this state, but learn to walk in the Spirit. So I might be getting ahead of myself just a little bit here, but what I mean by walking in the Spirit is at least somewhat different than what churches might teach. But there's some equal stuff too. And the reason I emphasize this is because the book emphasizes it. And I don't think this is going to be the last lesson in this area because it's a big subject. And I wanna do it some justice. So today's a sort of brief icebreaker. So what does spirit mean? Is there a real separation from what is seen, I should have said, and what is not seen? Who would confusion on this matter suit? So let's deal with bullet number 3 a little bit. Who would delight in confusing this issue? Hashatan, the devil. And so, I've said many times that the devil don't care if he gets you to fall to the right side or fall to the left side. He just wants you to fall. Right. And so now, these Torah only speakers or whatever aberration. I was talking to somebody last week. He says, "Oh man, they don't believe there was no such thing as angels." I said, "So they Sadducees, right?" So all of this stuff is like, it's like, really? I mean, how are you saying Messiah is Messiah? He don't believe in a resurrection. He's like, well, people just get reincarnated. The Bible don't teach reincarnation. But these are so-called Hebrew Israelites who have adopted some of these things. Guess what? Judaism does teach reincarnation. And so down this path, they start bolting on foolishness. And I think the reason you end up in those places is because you've neglected the Spirit. See, because if even if I don't like it, even if I have to scratch my head as to how he could have done it, for the Father who created man from the dust, although that's in question for some people who say they're believers, believe it or not. But he created man from the dust, but then 4,000 years later, he couldn't create, Mashiach without Joseph's help, right? He said, "Let there be light from the midst of the darkness," and there was. He brought order out of nothingness and he did all that, but he can't be doing any of this stuff. And so what I'm trying to sort of give some witness to is that if Yahuwah created the heavens and the earth, how can we limit him now? How can we turn this into a religious club where it's just about the bloodline or the DNA? It's got to be more to it than that, or else it makes no sense. So who would benefit from that? I say it's the enemy. What does the scripture testify regarding this? We'll get into that. Is the idea of walking in the Spirit a New Testament concept? Can I throw that out as a question? Is walking in the Spirit a New Testament concept?
No.
Anybody got any? Because I got something in my mind right now. How early can anybody think of? You don't have to give me chapter and verse, but can you think of anything in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, where something's happening in the Spirit? Enoch. Amen. Anybody else? Enoch. So I thought about Adam because it says that he walked with Yahuwah in the cool of the morning. And most people don't know that word that's translated cool in the English, guess what it is?
Spirit.
It's Ruach. It's Ruach. And so here we have Adam, who was fellowshipping with the Most High in the Spirit from the get-go. And you're going to see something later. I almost want to give you a spoiler on it, but you're going to see something later that kind of ties in the work Mashiach did and what I just said about Adam. So let's go on. Oh boy, I don't know if we want to go through there. Let's do that. I mean, let's go back and see what are there for him. So what I did, and it was probably. It was borderline for me, that's why I just kind of went fast past it. But this is from Yeshayahu, or Isaiah 56:6. I run into a lot of Israelites who say that only the 12 tribes can be saved, everybody else is going to hell. Anybody ever talk to them? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to go on the spot and say the book doesn't agree with that. So here we have in Isaiah 56 in the King James with the highlighted strong numbers, which I think I remember most of them. So also the sons of Beneh of the stranger, and that's whatever it is. The stranger that joined themselves unto Yahuwah to serve him and love the name of Yahuwah, to be his servants, every one that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant. So this idea of a stranger joining themselves to Israel is not, a passing thing. That word means to twine themselves into them. I almost get the picture of the similar picture of the grafting that Shaul was talking about in Romans. To be grafted into them. It's not some guy who just walked by Israel and said, "Man, y'all cool, I'll talk to you later." He grafted himself or intertwined himself by loving Yahuwah and serving him. He became a part of the covenant, though he wasn't in the covenant originally. You say, well, how can that be? The covenant was with Israel, and it's like, amen, hallelujah, I agree with you. But you see the Gibeonites in Yahusha, son of Nun, chapter 4, we see them get into the covenant through trickery. How much more? I wonder if Uriah the Hittite had bound himself to Yahuwah. I don't know. But he's fighting with the armies of Israel. He's like a man of valor. He's like, they're depending upon him. And I know some Israelites will say, yeah, what difference do it make to him? He's just a Hittite. Just throw him out there and kill him. But that don't seem like what Yahuwah thought. He didn't deal with David like, it was just the ant you stepped on. He's like, you stole a man's wife. So this is not Isaiah 14 where it says that the strangers, I think it's 1 and 2, the strangers will actually get land in the same zone where they are. So if they land in Dan, then they'll get land in Dan. That's interesting. If they are in the area, the region of Dan, they'll be allotted land with the Danites. If they are in the region of Ephraim, then they'll get land in Ephraim. These are the strangers, the same ones that everybody is convinced they're just going to be under my neck. My boots going to be on their neck, right? And so there are two things. I'll just throw it out. And as we go through this, it may be a bit of a series, but as we go through this, it'll make more and more sense. But the word for servant is abed or abode, and that thing has no wholly negative connotation. In other words, to be a servant doesn't always mean that you're being beat down. And so, yeah, we're servants of Elohim, but I don't see no blood on y'all. I don't see y'all teeth hanging out your mouth. So, all right, let's go on. So, in John chapter 4, Messiah's, with this woman at the well. Everybody know the story? Okay. All right. So the woman says to him, Master, Sovereign, I see that you're a prophet. Why she say that? Y'all remember? Anybody? Why she said, I see you're a prophet? Because I'm gonna have to turn there a paraphrase for you. So she's talking back and forth to him about, and he says to her, where's your husband? And then she say, I ain't got no husband. And she says, yeah, you got five men that none of them was your husband. So let me just ask you that. How does Shiach know that? Was it natural? Did he get a dossier on her before he went over there? And did he, do some Google searches to find out, had her name been changed 4 or 5 times? Is that how he did it? No. But the purpose of this message is to sort of make this silliness very clear to any one of us who either are falling on the side of way too much of a natural perspective or going to run into people who are. Because they'll come your way and they'll tell you, this is how things are or whatever. When you drop stuff, it falls to the ground, and certainly, da-da-da-da-da. And it'll be seemingly sound logic, but it would have thrown the spirit out. It would have acted as though, ain't no point in praying. So all that praying, you feel like you're missing that frame, it's no big deal because praying ain't worth nothing anyway. All right, so she says this to him, Master, I see you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you people, meaning the Yahudim or the people from the land of Yehuda, which, by the way, I'm throwing all kinds of nuggets out here. Everybody in the land of Yehuda was not a Yehudite. Right. When the Assyrians came to the north and took away all those people, some people ran, and they ran to somebody else's zone. Some of them probably came down to the Yehuda. And then after the Babylonian captivity, people ran again. And so everybody, Herod was not a Yahudim. He was Esau's son. But he had converted to Judaism. And these kind of things, these kind of nuggets are important to start seeing that people are saying stuff all the time and they're not given the fine detail to tell the truth of the story. So you people say that in Yerushalayim is the place where one needs to worship. Yahusha said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you shall neither on this mountain nor in Yerushalayim worship the Father. You worship that which you do not know. So forget all that color stuff for a minute. I should have probably moved it. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, because deliverance is of the Yahudim. So I could come back to it because I remember now where I left it. But the hour is coming, and now this is Mashiach talking, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. You can tell I've changed the font color on that. I'll come back to it in a second. For the Father also does seek such to worship him. He goes on to say, Elohim is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship him, worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming. I don't know why she said what she said. She says, I know Messiah is coming, the one who is called anointed. When that one comes, he shall announce to us all. I guess that's why she said it. She's like, well, maybe I didn't get it because when Mashiach comes, he's going to straighten all this stuff out. And boy, that'll preach. There's a bunch of stuff he's going to straighten out. He gonna laugh at us for saying Yahuwah and Ahaya and whatever he's going to say. It really sound like this. It really sound like this, little brother. It's like, how y'all fighting over that when anyway. So he shall announce to us all. Yahusha said to her, I who am speaking to you am he. So there's a lot in here I'm going to talk about. Let's start at the back. I who am speaking to you am he. So she recognized, if you remember a few verses ago, that he was a prophet. And the reason she knew he was a prophet was because he was telling her about stuff that he had no way of knowing. And so she saw that he could discern something or get something outside the natural realm. Has anybody in this room ever gotten anything outside of the natural realm? All right, I'm just asking, right? I don't feel like. So you put your thumb, do like this. I mean, you don't want to be a part of the survey. I'm just joking. So she was convinced or had a witness that something was happening beyond what she could see. And I think that's really the anchor here. If everything is about what we can see, then we can't explain Doodly Squad. Y'all everybody in here, grown folk at least, been through science at a level high enough to say there's supposed to be molecules, and then inside the molecules there's atoms. Mm-hmm. And inside the atoms there's these things. Electrons and neutrons and nucleus and that kind of stuff, right? So we probably have some level of belief for that. People may not have seen electrons and neutrons and nucleus and stuff, but they believe it. Protons, thank you, brother. Science man, there you go. So we don't see air, but we kind of have this concept that there's some around us. Right now, while we're talking, there are all kinds of, I don't mean to scare y'all because it is my house, but there's all kinds of bacteria and stuff all around, and we don't see it. And some of it's beneficial, and some of it, if it went too far, would be detrimental. And so none of us generally have any trouble with accepting that. But what we sometimes have trouble accepting is that two parts. One, that all of that came from somewhere. And if it came from somewhere, the question is, where did it come from? And then if I can make it two parts, the other part is that there's spiritual activity all around us, even right now. So we're all sitting here in our natural states, blobs being held together by, whatever force you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is that you're more than just your body parts. If you ever seen somebody or something that was alive and then it's dead, you recognize there's a big difference.
Vibration.
It's a difference, right? And so, you know, I'm not going to be able to articulate all of the pieces and the mechanisms there. One, because I don't really have all of them, but I can clearly say that the spirit departed from that being, and so now it's not alive as we call alive. Now watch me now. So I'm going kind of slow on purpose because those cells and those atoms and those molecules that are in there, you know, they're still there. And even though they start to break down from that state, you know, the bacteria that's in them begins to thrive and eat at it, and then all of a sudden, so it's still something alive there, but that person is gone because that person was a spirit or activated by the spirit. Again, I don't say I understand this whole mechanism, but what I'm trying to show very clearly is that there's something going on here that's not just natural. And so once we can kind of confess that, then I think it gives us permission to understand that there's a spirit realm here. There's something that's happening. If you ever heard a testimony and you believed it was true, like from the Bible, that somebody died, Lazarus, and then he was alive. How can you do that? What in the world, right? I think for our natural mind, it's supposed to make your eyes go around in your head a little bit. Because we've all been trained up so naturally that the things of the spirit are borderline bizarre to us. It's like, how in the world is that? It's like if I went out there and just jumped on that tree and started climbing up it like some kind of a squirrel or a monkey, y'all would be like, man, how you do that? It would like, really? How you do that? With the sandals on? It would just kind of throw you for a loop. And even in a greater way, understanding that there's a spiritual aspect to our life and to our existence. And I would dare say that according to the scripture, there was this time when there was nothing but Elohim, which is spirit. And so everything has got to have some kind of spiritual underpinning. I mean, what is it resting on? Where did it come from? It had to come from him. I'm not teaching pantheism where rocks are God. That's not my move. But what I'm saying is that if he created it out of what we will call as nothing, then he must have created it from the spirit, because that's all it was. Y'all hold on that, chew on that, hit me later in the old neighbor line. Back to the scripture. So the woman, I got that part. So it says Elohim is spirit. Does anybody have any idea what to think of that? Because I talked to my family about this stuff in our weekly Bible studies and stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't know what does that mean? Elohim is spirit. See, you think about, Casper the Friendly Ghost, and you know that's stupid and that's wrong. And then you think, well, I remember I used to pray, to the Father, and I had this image in my head, like this huge, big as my house man, sitting on like one of them Abraham Lincoln seats in Washington D.C. on the throne, and I would pray. I used to think, and then I had to knock sticks. I had to get rid of that because I don't think that's right either. He's not like the Greek Titans. You see, y'all know that picture where they're these beings that look like people, but they're huge. Bigger than Goliath, bigger than the Anakim, bigger than the Nephilim, just big ones, right? That's not accurate either. Elohim is spirit. And for me, and if I can impart any of it into you all, for me, it takes me into the I don't know, I don't quite understand zone, but I'm comfortable over there with it. Right. It's kind of like the wind, right? You can see when it pushes the trees down, but you can't see it itself. You can tell when it's hurricane gale force versus just a nice breeze out there and the trees are doing like this, but you can't tell where it's coming from, where it's going. You can't tell, right? I think this is the reason Mashiach used that picture in the book of John. He said, like the spirit, it's like the wind. It goes and comes where you don't know where it's coming from. He was trying to make it as undefinable as possible, because it's undefinable by normal language. There's no corresponding example. You can say, what's the difference between a boy and a girl? Well, they look about the same, but they have this part. There's nothing to compare the spirit with. So he says, back at the beginning of this verse, the worshippers of the Father shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide because I want to talk about what the spirit and truth means. So, in the Tanakh, and so I've taken the liberty of taking the New Testament word, and I've gone back to the Tanakh to get some definitions, because I don't think that the Greek words help as much. I mean, it says pneuma, like wind, breath, right? And that's fine. But Ruach is all through the Tanakh, and sometimes it's just some breeze. Sometimes it's a wind. And then other times it's him. Then other times is another spirit that's not him. And so what does this word truth mean? It's emet, or spelled aleph mem tav. I guess I want to encourage us that our walk is like the wind, is unbounded. We can do all kinds of things that the Father has us to do if we can just let down our own restraints on the matter. See, the reason that we were talking earlier before you all got here, we were talking about starting businesses and stuff. And Ivy brought up a really good point. And my counter to it was, some of that's because we can't think outside this little jar we're in. See, when you look at Ruach or wind or breath, it's not containable. And I don't think that we as sons and daughters of Elohim are containable in the sense that we allow ourselves to be contained. I think we got a whole lot more room than we take advantage of. And that manifests, in terms of natural stuff, in terms of, ministry effects, and et cetera, et cetera. And then emet. So emet is a beautiful word in Hebrew, because it takes the first letter in Hebrew, it takes the last letter of Hebrew, and it takes the middle letter in Hebrew and combines them together and makes a word. And that's truth. In other words, truth is everything from the beginning to the end, including the middle. And so when he says that we should worship the Father in spirit and truth, I think about having to take the whole scroll, the whole book, not just piece of it, not the piece that, our pastor or even Zakana Fareem mentioned the other day, and that's the only thing. You've got to see it all, the big picture. And that's not something that's easy to do. It's easy to take, a couple of verses and build the doctrine and then tell people, repeat this, and get a bunch of people to do it and look like, hey, you got something going. But it's more difficult to say, well, I'm still discovering, but this is what I do see, and reason with each other. So spirit and truth is Ruach and emet. In other words, by the Spirit, we need to worship him, and we need to use the whole book as our framework to do it. Hallelujah. Yahusha answered, truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is, this is from chapter 3. I think that might have been in last week's message, to be honest with you. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and spirit, he's unable to enter into the reign of Elohim. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I said to you, you have to be born from above. And so, whatever that means, he's making it clear that just being born, bloodline Israel, bloodline Amorite, bloodline whatever the case is, is not your challenge. Your challenge is being born from above. So, flesh or spirit, how do we discern the difference when often the manifestations we see is seen naturally? What I mean by that, saints, is that if the Father were to say something to us about something that's going to happen, we hear it, but we don't see it except in the natural. So it's like, even the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, you see that in the natural. Why they call the fruit of the Spirit when you see them in the natural? And it's because they're coming from somewhere. So I'm going to read a passage out of Matthew chapter 26. And it says, Then Yahusha came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the taught ones, Sit here while I go over there and pray. And he took with him Kepha and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be grieved and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, My being is exceedingly grieved, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. And going forward a little, he fell on his face and praying, saying, Oh my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I desire, but as you desire. And he came to the taught ones and found them asleep and said to Kepha, So you are not able to watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into trial. The King James says temptation. And then he says, this highlighted part of the verse, the spirit indeed is eager, but the flesh is weak. The King James says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So let's flash back to the beginning where I was talking about discipline. The spirit is willing to do all those right things, but our flesh is the one that has to be mastered, has to be disciplined, has to let Ruach be that militant over it, tell it what to do, what not to do. Tell them what's acceptable and what's not. To take it out to the woodshed if you need to sometimes. So we brother and I, we fasted together a week or two ago, and he was saying after the fast was over, seemed like some things that were hard were easy, and I says, well, hallelujah, because if you don't eat, if you can stand not eating, almost anything is easy. So that witness that made it easy is something that accumulates. And what I mean by that is that as you do it, then you start to realize what you can do. You start to realize, I really won't die if I miss a meal. I really won't. And so now you are empowered to tell your flesh and your grumbles in your belly or whatever the case is, be still. The beauty of that is that you just learned a lesson that's able to bring forth good fruit in the kingdom. Because a lot of times the difference between going forward and making progress in our walk is being able to deny ourselves. And because if you can't deny yourself, then you're going to find that you're stagnated. You're not able to move forward. He said the spirit indeed is eager or willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, he went on his way the second time and prayed, Oh my Father, if it's possible for this to pass unless I drink it, if it is impossible for this to pass unless I drink it, let your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again. So I think this is really interesting in that, sleep. Who told us we need 8 hours sleep? So there used to be this chart when I was a little one, a little pyramid for what you should eat. You should eat some cheese and some milk and some wheat and some something, and half of that stuff was poison, but they were telling me to eat, right?
That's true.
But that was the food pyramid. And so in like fashion, somebody said, you need 8 hours of sleep, and I don't know how many hours of sleep you really need. Everybody's probably a little different. But like I was telling brother, like when I fast, I don't need nearly as much sleep. I don't know what's up with that exactly, but I don't need nearly as much sleep. And so these brothers, let me finish. So I don't need nearly as much sleep, and I get this clarity in the spirit that I don't have as sharp when I am eating. So there are two benefits there. Now I don't need to sleep as long, and I don't feel the heaviness I feel getting up after fasting for a few days is because my muscles are a little bit weak, but my spirit is like jumping. And it's like just what he said a verse or two ago, the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. And sometimes that's a good thing to recognize that distinction. But in this case, they're like giving over to the flesh. And they're telling the flesh, oh, let's sleep, we can't be praying. I run out of stuff to pray after 10 minutes, 10 seconds, let alone an hour. I mean, some people. Now sometimes, man, I can pray and pray and pray and pray and pray, but sometimes, like anybody else, I'm like, what did it say in Matthew 6? Our Father who's in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. And so I praise Yahuwah. I'm not much like that anymore, but my point is that our flesh is not able to agree with Elohim. Its priority is not the kingdom of Yahuwah. Our flesh might love the kingdom of Israel, but it don't mean the kingdom of Yahuwah. I'm gonna break that apart because it might sound confusing. Our flesh is happy to have the camaraderie with the set apart ones or with the nation and the national Ungawa, Black Power movement type stuff of Israel. Our flesh is delighting in that. But the real kingdom of Israel has a spiritual king and it's spiritual. I'm not doing no replacement theology stuff. I know that Israel shall rule and reign with Mashiach. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I know this. But what I'm saying is that there's a big group of people who are more about the flesh than they are the spirit. And consequently, they neglect the things of the spirit and they begin to teach doctrines that discount the spirit. And all of a sudden, they find themselves just like another group of people that they say they actually despise. They want to throw out names and stuff. But it's like, but you're becoming more and more like them. You're falling farther and farther away from Mashiach every step of the way. Remember what Yeshua said in Galatians about, he used the term, King James Version, about weak and beggarly elements. Anybody remember that? So he was contrasting people walking in the spirit versus being, and I'm going to get probably in warm water with this one, under the Torah. I had to put the air quotes up because I honor the Torah with my whole heart. But this under concept in the Torah he was speaking of in Galatians is not the thing that we're called to be in agreement with. Notice I didn't say under. But he was contrasting. He was saying, well, how did you get here? Wasn't that by the Spirit? And now you think you're going to be made perfect by following those Pharisees and the stuff they're doing? He wasn't saying, because let's read Romans 6 again, just to make sure that the people watching this tape understand, this video, understand that Ephraim is in no way, shape, or form trying to throw out the Torah. Romans 6 verse 1 and 2. You want to read it out loud for me, bro?
What then shall we say? Shall we continue in sin to let favor increase? Let it not be. How shall we who died to sin still live in it?
Amen. So the reason I went to that is because Paul's going through this long discussion about the Torah and about sin and etc. And he makes it clear that we in Messiah have died to sin and that we have no more reason to be sinners or can categorize ourselves as sinners. But he says at the same time, which might be confusing to some people, he says, but if you die to sin, then you can't live any longer in sin. Knowing that sin is the breaking of the commandments of Elohim. Sin is not following the Torah. So we're in this really interesting spot where we're not under the Torah, but we can't live against the Torah because we died to that kind of lifestyle. And we're raised in Mashiach so that we can walk out the Torah in a sort of, from a liberty perspective, but not being bound in it like that. And it's for some a confusing concept, but it's really not confusing at all. It's like you had so much stuff against you from the Torah. All of the Devarim 28 curses were laid on your back, right? And then when Mashiach died and you received it and got that transfer from him, all of a sudden you were flashback, reset, just like you had not ever sinned. But the question is now, what do I do with myself? Do I say, well, you know, I'm back in the garden, just like Adam. Where's that pork chop? No, because the fact of the matter is that that's how you got there in the first place. So how can you go back to living in the mud that I just got you out of? That's what that passage means, and I agree 100% with that. And I want to make it clear, especially for the video watchers, because what I don't want anybody thinking is that, you know, Ephraim's got something against the Torah of Elohim. So I don't even think I finished this verse, so I will. Still sleeping and taking a rest, see the hours come near. The son of Adam is delivered up to the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. See, he who delivers me has come near. So how do we discern the difference when often the manifestation we see is seen naturally? Does long hair make you stronger? Anybody? Sister, hair long, your hair long, right? Maisha might know, your hair kind of long too. Lawrence, hair long. Come on, let's arm wrestle. You got muscles. So we all know long hair doesn't make you strong. But there's this cat in the scriptures. Anybody know where I'm going? Shimshon. Y'all ever seen that movie?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So they portray Shimshon like this, right? Big mummy. His arm is big as my thigh. That cat is big, right? And so it's actually a decent, movie to watch if you can find it. But the reason I took this clip, and the reason I put it out there, and the reason I asked the question about does long hair make you strong, is because that's what the natural would tell you. Because remember, when his hair gets cut off, he's weak. Almost to make it look as though it was his hair. So let me just say this right. Because I feel a little bit like Shaul now. What I'm saying could be easily confused. So it was his hair, but it wasn't his hair. Is that confusing enough? It was his hair, but it wasn't his hair. Right. And the reason it was his hair is because he made a covenant with Elohim, and the hair was the representation of the covenant. But the covenant is spiritual. The covenant is not physical. You can't touch and feel a covenant. You can't turn it upside down and spin it around. You can't put it in the refrigerator and it lasts longer. It's not like that. And so, in case I made it up, in Judges chapter 15, when he came to Licha, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. This is a picture, you can back it up and look at it later. But it's in Judges 15, where the Yahudim, because Shimshon was from the tribe of anybody? Dan. That wonderful tribe of Dan people like to talk about. At any rate, so he was a Danite. And so now we got the Yahudim, or the people from Judea or from Judah's lineage, who had him, and they were going to bind him and tie him up. And he says, we're going to deliver you to the Philistines because, they're going to kill us all. They're burning our houses. They're doing all this stuff. And he's like, okay, just promise me that y'all not gonna kill me, and I'll let you tie my hands and give me to him. And so they said, okay, we're not gonna kill you, we're just gonna give you to them. And then he came to the island, the Philistines came shouting to meet him, and the spirit of Yahuwah came mightily upon him. And the ropes on his arms became like flax that is burned with fire, and his bonds broke loose from his hands. So the purpose of this passage is to make it so absolutely clear that his strength was not those big arms we saw right there. And this is a Hollywood or whatever wood representation. For all we know, Shimshon could have been my size or this young man's size. But when the spirit of Elohim came upon him, he was mighty. So I'm saying all this to say that when the spirit of Elohim comes upon us, we get some extra supernatural strength, supernatural insight, the ability to discern something that we can't see otherwise. If we don't have experience with that, my encouragement is that we begin to ask Elohim to give us our part of that, to show us our part of that. Because many times we're trying to fight this spiritual battle with natural means. We're trying to walk out our spiritual walk with natural means. And I can be guilty of it too, don't get me wrong. This is one of the reasons we don't feel like we're getting that good success. See, the whole thing with the discipline earlier, me running around and doing all this stuff, that's not the spirit of Elohim talking to me. That's me trying to manage my whole life in the natural, in the flesh, and not realizing that my shalom is in the spirit. And remember Lazarus, how long was he dead before Mashiach showed up? 4 days. 4 days. And so, friend, what that got to do with anything? What it's got to do with anything is that Mashiach, he wasn't in no hurry. In fact, it was the other way around. He was looking to glorify the Most High. He's like, if I get over there right when he falls dead, they'll say he wasn't dead yet. If I come in a day, they'll say, well, maybe he was in suspended animation. Anybody ever heard that term? Maybe that's what it was. On and on and on. He says, but after 4 days, everybody, he's stinking, he's dead. But the reason I can raise him is because this is his words, not mine. I am the resurrection and the life. And so here he comes in the spirit and he speaks to this corpse. And all of a sudden, if there's something that left him, it comes back. And he's alive. So whether anybody in this room or the sound of my voice ever has the opportunity to raise somebody from the dead, I don't know. It's not like a belt notch thing. Yeah, I raised 2 people from the dead. How many you raised? It's not like that. But certainly we're called to walk in the spirit. Certainly the Father has gifts and talents and abilities that He's marked us with. And we want to be able to walk in them. We want to be able to do good with that, just like we will with any of our natural talents and abilities. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I think, oh yeah, I'm going to read that. Yeah, I'm going to read that. So it says in Revelation chapter, it's a little messy, but 19. And I heard a voice of a great crowd as the sound of many waters and as the sound of mighty thunder saying, Hallelujah! For Yahuwah El Shaddai reigns. Let us be glad and rejoice. You all notice I get excited when it says that, right? So let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself. That's what we're doing right now. And to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright. For the fine linen is the righteousness of the set apart ones. And he said to me, Right. Blessed are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, These are the true words of Elohim. and I fell at his feet to worship him. This is a messenger, an angel that Yochanan is talking to. I fell at his feet to worship him, but he said to me, see, do not do it. I am your fellow servant and of your brothers who possess the witness of Yahusha. Worship Elohim, for the witness of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. And so I could go into this probably for a half hour, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say this. That part that I darkened the font on, for the witness of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. You don't know who Mashiach is by the natural. Anybody who claims to be in him had to get some witness in the spirit, or else it's coming. I'm going to put it that way. What I mean by that is that if you don't have that witness in the spirit, what do you mean in the spirit? Remember, I can't define spirit. All I can tell you is spirit ain't flesh. I can tell you that Yahuwah is spirit. But I don't have no fine-tuned definition that this is what spirit is, and because spirit don't fit in a box, a natural box. Spirit is life. It's the thing that the Most High breathed into Adam and he became a living soul. But if you don't have some witness in the spirit, then you're not yet born again. You're not yet in that place where you're in Mashiach. This might be tough. But the reason I'm being so tough about it, the reason I'm laying it out there so plain, is because if no one tells us, then we'll find ourselves in the Israelite club and cast off like everybody else when it all goes down. We'll find ourselves, skipping catfish and whatever other food things are supposed to be food, as though somehow now we know we're cool with Elohim, and we haven't got that witness in the spirit. So this is actually the last slide I have, but I want to pray and I'm going to open up for questions, and that way we can cut the video after that. So Abba, I'm asking you, Father, for all of us, whether we be young or old in the natural, that you would bear witness to our hearts that Yahusha is your son and that you sent him forth to deliver us from the power of sin and death. I pray, Father, that you would touch our little ones, our young ones, our loved ones, touch me, hallelujah, and confirm in us, Abba, and build in us that most high faith that's based upon your building blocks, Abba, more than it is anything else. I pray, Father, that you would not look aside to this prayer, but that you will watch over it. And that the people that are watching this video, we don't even know when, will get that witness from you that you have called them to be yours and planted your seed in them. I bless you for all these things in the name of your son, Messiah, Yahusha. Hallelujah and amen.
Amen.
All right. Any questions?
Could you reference of course you can't describe, but what you call it, a body.
So
can you name it, or just reference?
So the Tanakh talks about these idols, right? It says they got hands but they can't feel, they got tongues but they can't talk, they got ears but they can't hear, as if to say that's not how Yahuwah is. I have no way to reconcile Yahuwah being spirit and at the same time being able to manifest in the natural. Remember at Mamre when the three visitors came to visit Abraham, and he talks to one like it's Yahuwah, and Yahuwah talks to him like this being does. The other two seem like they're angels. People say the third one was the angel of Yahuwah, the angel of the Lord. I don't know. But what seems very clear to me is that this spirit that we call Yahuwah Elohim has the ability to manifest in whatever shape and form he wants. So what is this cloud by day and this fire by night? It seems like it's a witness of him. Yet in the 10 words it says, "Thou shalt not make any image of me, whether it be man or beast, whether it be fish under the water." It goes through this story, right, as if to say, I'm not none of that. Neither shall I ever be confused with any of that. And so the Father leaves us with only one way. Remember Moshe. Show me your esteem. Right? And so the Father says to Moshe, he says, all right, Moshe, I kind of like you. I want to help you out here. Maybe you've been asking him 500 times before, I don't know. He's like, okay, I'm going to do something for you. Get over there in between them two rocks, and I'm going to pass by you. This stuff makes my head spin because I can't make any sense out of it. He said, get over there in that rock, and I'm going to pass by you. And then it says he put his hand over him so that he can see his backside. He's a spirit. What is going on here? I don't know how to clarify that. I have to confess my weakness in the ability of clarifying that. Right. But at the same time, I want to confess the awesomeness of what I'm trying to wrestle with. It's like, I want to pray that prayer. Show me your esteem. It seemed like Moshe was in a dangerous position, that he had to be protected by rocks all around him. And then the Most High said, as though his face of a spirit is coming toward him is way too intense, so he covers him up. You can see the afterglow. Right. You ever try to look at the sun?
Of course. Yeah.
It's like this for me, right? And you can do it like this, but isn't that kind of what Moshe did to the burning bush? He looked to the side. That's what the witness says in the book. He looked to the side so he can check it out. And so every witness I see is showing this spirit that we call Yahuwah Elohim as being so incredibly awesome that I can't get my head around it. Does that make sense? I mean, when Nana was 2 and 3, I don't know if she can get her head around parents, let alone. so Yahuwah is much bigger than that, if I could put it that way. And so not being able to get my head around him doesn't negatively impact my faith. In fact, it builds it. It tells me that, you know what? There ain't nothing bad enough to step up to him. So I don't know if I directly answered your question.
That's awesome. And then we talked about that. I think I asked you a while back about people believing that they're going to see 3 entities in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to see lots of entities in heaven, but it ain't quite like, it ain't necessarily. So, you know what? Today ain't a good day for you to go to the heaven thing.
All right. I'm just, I know the children probably think about that.
But my little one, she said to me the other day, she says, well, why do people teach that, everybody's going to go to heaven when the book says that heaven's going to come to the earth? So everybody know that, right? On video, y'all know that, right? So why do everybody teach that? And I was like, I wish I had a good excuse for them. I mean, I could surmise how it could have happened, but it's not the picture the book gives us. And I went on further to tell her something I'm gonna put on the tape. So in the beginning, when Yahuwah made Adam and Kala, he says that he made them in his image according to his likeness. And what this means, in some sense, is that he began to populate the earth with his image and his likeness. And I see it like almost setting up a beachhead. It's like, I'm gonna start populating this place with my image and my likeness because it needs to be prepared because I'm coming. I'm going to be here. And the only reason I can say that is because in the book of Revelation, it says that he comes down from the sky brings heaven and the New Jerusalem down with him. And then he dwells there in it. And it's almost like we're emissaries or apostles or what they call it in regular political speak, ambassadors. We're like the Marines that went out first to secure everything, to watch, to occupy till he comes. You see this language Mashiach used?
Wow.
And he's coming, right?
Right.
We don't know exactly when. It's like, but you all need to occupy, and I've given you what you need for Elohim likeness. And in the book of Peter, it says that we have been given, oh my goodness, the divine nature, I think is what it says. In other words, we've got him in us. And I know some of this stuff sounds so strange, especially to Israel, because Israel are people who've just been beaten down and they're normal folk and they don't got nothing going for them. But in Mashiach, they've been transformed into something else. And when we don't get that, then we're not going to get that. Last throw out on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It says in the book, even now has he made us. I think I read this last time we were together. Made us sons of Elohim, even now. Even now. John chapter 17 says that he is in us and we're in him. Mashiach's in him and we're Mashiach, and it gives this picture that I don't think we understand from a covenant perspective. It means just like, you and your Isha are one, me and my Isha, you and your Isha are one, that he's saying he's one with us too. His oneness is in the spirit, and I'm here to tell you the spirit transcends the flesh. And what I mean by that is that the spirit is stronger, a stronger bond than in the flesh. So the encouragement is that, I need to grow up like a little mighty one. Mm-hmm. Remember when she quoted out of the Psalms, he says, hey, doesn't the scriptures say that you are Elohim?
You're like us, but you're God like man.
Exactly, my little brother. Exactly. He nailed it. So all of these, if I use the Hebrews version of it, all these cloud of witnesses, we need to be hearing them. Quit trying to let the world and our jobs and our family responsibilities and whatever convince us that we're just regular people going through the cycle of life. You were that. But if you be in Mashiach, you've actually been transformed into a new creature. That's what Shaul is saying. All things are passing away. He's saying, you didn't get the memo. You're more than you think you are. And let the Most High show us exactly how that manifests. Any other questions or comments? Going once, going twice.
So it is very important for us to, with us being in the spirit like that, it's very important for us to fast often.
Hallelujah.
So we can beat that flesh.
Yeah. So if anybody didn't hear what he said, he says it's important for us to fast often. Remember in the Gospels, somebody said, hey, their disciples fast all the time, and why don't y'all fast, right? And Mashiach, it looks like some people think he says this. Well, they don't need to fast because they my disciples. But that's not what he said. He says, well, while the bridegroom is with them, they don't need to fast. But they will be fasting later. It's a weak, loose paraphrase. Wish I can quote like this young man. He was awesome with that. But my point is that we do need to fast. We do need to lay our flesh down and tell it what the story is, because newsflash, this flesh isn't making it to the kingdom. I mean, if Mashiach returns now, then there's some reconciling that has to happen. But this flesh and I don't like what could sound like my definition of flesh. Your body is not the part that he died for. Though your body can benefit from your salvation, the truth of the matter is that it says that just like he knows us, we'll know him when that day comes, and that's because all of these trappings on us will be dropped. Walking in the Spirit won't be something you're learning to do. There won't be another option.
Amen.
So yeah, when we fast and when we abstain from it, and not just fast just to not eat, but fast and pray and meditate on and press and desire in our hearts that he actually visit us and show us and manifest what he desires in us. So it's a long diatribe of me saying that is one thing. The other day I was out and I didn't eat. I came back home. I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock, and my wife said to me, "You ate all day?" And I hadn't, and it was all right. I mean, I was good. I think some of that's because I'm fasting like regularly. But my point was that I wasn't in the quote unquote fasting mindset. I just simply hadn't eaten. Those are two different things. Dick Gregory used to fast a lot. I don't know his spiritual underpinning so much, but it looked like he was fasting to protest back in my day. It looked like he was, doing, and those kind of fasts, they got their merit. I mean, you're always going to give your digestive system a break, and that's good. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of, you can flush some toxins out of your system, and that's good. But the kind of fast I'm talking about is superior to that. Because we're desiring to move into the Spirit, to walk into the Spirit. Stand there on? It's from the top? Okay, I tried. So I agree with you, brother. And I just encourage us to add to our prayer when we're fasting that he would open our understanding more. I often pray when I'm fasting, I ask him to be my food. It's like, you feed me. The word says, "Man should not live by bread alone, but every word proceed out of your mouth." Let's see if we can work that out. And so, hallelujah. Good comment. Good comment. Anything else? Going once, going twice. So I have one last testimony, and it's about it kind of is in line with that passage in Revelation about the spirit of prophecy. I had a dream. I had 2 dreams this morning, and they were like a continuation dream. So, and we all have dreams, but sometimes I have dreams and I know there's something going on. And so this morning I had this dream, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm not going to go through it much at all. In fact, I'm just going to say this, that the Father made it clear to me that I shouldn't be walking by sight. In the dream, there was this fella in it, and this fella's got a reputation, and his reputation is not all that good. And in the dream, he was doing nothing but good. And it was so contrast to how he really is. And so I was pondering the first dream, and I was like, Father, what was that all about, right? And then, I didn't really feel like I had an answer, and I wanted to go back to sleep because the spirit's willing and the flesh is weak. Hallelujah. So I went back to sleep. And in the second dream, I'm back in the dream with the same cat. And he again is doing something that's above board and is good. And I woke up from the dream, and I was just thinking about it, and I was like, well, I need to record this because I need to tell them about it. And I want to remember what happened. So I was doing that, and as I was talking it through, I recognized that Ruach was talking to me through it and telling me that I cannot judge based upon external stuff. I gotta be able to discern at another level, and that he's offering that opportunity. And so I'm only telling the dream because I think that it falls in line with Mustard's message, and I want to encourage you all to don't get caught up in walking by sight. Don't think that that's the end. I know until we can practice better, that's all we can do. But the Father is willing to train us so that we can walk in that place that He wants us to, so we can recognize those signs. See, because when certain things happen, you know, you start to, you see the clouds in the sky. Mashiach said the same thing. You know it's going to rain, right? You get it. But he said they couldn't discern the signs of the time. And so in a like fashion, we have to be sure that we not only can tell this natural stuff, but that we see this happen and we see that happen, and we start to discern, what's going on with that? Anybody ever seen the movie The Matrix? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So remember, I think at one point somebody said that they saw a black cat, and it was like deja vu or something like that. And the person that was with them said, it's a glitch in the Matrix, they're coming, right? This happens, you see these glitches like this, or you see the tape replay when they're adjusting the Matrix in order to do dirt, in this case, to get us. And so that was a natural picture, it was a fun picture, it had a lot of revelation stuff in it I think I like. But that picture right there is what I'm trying to describe as to be able to discern when things happen and you know Yahuwah's trying to talk to you, or you know, because sometimes we got to stop. We got to say, okay, Father, I don't know what you're trying to say, like me with the double dream this morning. I don't know what you're trying to say, but I believe you're trying to say something. And I had to get that witness first, and then to still myself and to ask him about it. And then I started to see that what he was saying is that you must not walk by sight, because what I'm doing oftentimes hasn't manifested yet, and so you don't see it. You don't see it, and you can be confused about whether I'm doing anything or what I'm doing. Hallelujah. So, all blessings and praises and honor and esteem and everything else good goes to Yahusha. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.